to talk about how bad the suspension is on my T5. So around about 5 years ago, I bought this T5. It was a panel van. It was a year old. It had just done 13,000 miles. And the idea was to convert it into a camper van, which I've done. But like many people, I felt that the T5 in stock form, the suspension looked like the van was up on stilts. So I wanted to lower it. So I did a lot of investigation online to see what options there were available. Went onto a lot of forums, and the most cost-effective way of lowering the van was to put a set of lowering springs on. The set that was recommended was made by a company called H&R, and they lowered the van by 40 millimeters. This only cost £200, and that was fitted as well. So price-wise, that was really good. It was always stated that you could use them with the standard shock absorbers. So I retained the standard shock absorbers. So when I did it, the van had probably only done 20,000 miles, so the shock absorbers were still relatively new, not really overly worn. There were other more expensive options, going for coilovers, and the recommended ones were well over £1,000, possibly even £1,500, and that just wasn't within my budget. But contrary to the advice on the forums and everyone else, it's actually completely ruined the ride. So although it ruins the ride, it does actually make the van look a lot better. The way that the wheel sits in the wheel arch, it just makes it look, in my opinion, closer to what it should look like. I've looked recently at options of how I can make the ride better. The budget I've got is a little bit higher than before. So recently I've been investigating what's out there, what can I use. Again, my research has come across a couple of coilovers, a couple of new coilovers actually, on the market that is based towards comfort. The previous recommendations in reality were based towards stopping the van pitching and rolling. But that doesn't produce comfort. That might produce maybe better road holding. But a vehicle like this is a leisure vehicle. I don't believe that you need brilliant road holding. It's nice, but comfort's what you need. But these coilovers are £1,600–1,700 for a set, which is well out of my budget. I looked at going for an air suspension, and that's £3,000 or £4,000. Again, well outside the budget that I've set. But what I've come across is a set of shock absorbers that just by chance marry up perfectly with the springs that I've already got fitted. So I'm going to fit a set of those. So the purpose of today's video is to set a benchmark. So I'm currently going across a set of speed humps. I've got the GoPro set up, and I've taken off image stabilization. I'm going to drive a couple of roads that I know are particularly poor and uncomfortable at a certain speed, so we can see the video. Once I change the suspension, I'll then record the same thing, doing things at the same speed, and see if I can actually demonstrate any improvement I have. So, what's wrong with the ride? Well, it seems like, to me, the springs are just too strong for the shock absorbers. And every time you go across a big bump, you get a big bounce. So the springs seem to get compressed and then push up and you end up almost flying in the air, and it oscillates a couple of times. It just doesn't control the ride at all. And I don't fully understand suspensions. Obviously the spring compresses, the shock absorbers are there to control but what I actually find is on the motorway doing 60-70 mile an hour, it's actually very comfortable. So that part of the suspension works really well, but it's not working hard. As soon as you go down smaller roads, bumpy roads, if you drive it for more than an hour, you get out and you're absolutely shattered, you're really tired. It just shakes you. So hopefully we'll get a good improvement. This road here isn't too bad. I'm hoping as well that the amount of crashing sounds that you get through the suspension will be reduced as well. So the van now's done 61,000 miles, and although I'm sure the bushes are starting to get a little bit worn, there's no rattles or anything from the suspension at all to indicate that anything's significantly worn, so I'm not going to change anything. So what I've actually chosen is a set of shock absorbers made by Koni. The cost of them is £560, at least that's what I managed to find them for. They're typically on the market for anywhere from £650, and I've seen them up to £1,200 for a set as well. But clearly shopping around makes it worthwhile. They are called the Special Active Plus, I think, and the set I bought is designed specifically for T5 vans and T5 camper van conversions. And on the website it actually says that they were designed to improve the ride of the vans on lowered springs and standard springs. I believe that the 40mm drop is probably as far as they recommend to go with those particular shock absorbers, due to the length of the travel of the piston. But what they say is the shock absorber has, I think it's a triple valves technology, and I don't pretend to understand really what that means or how it works. But the way they describe that it works is when you're driving along normal roads, just the standard small bumps that you get, the very high oscillation movement, the shock absorbers allow the suspension to move in a certain way and move quickly and react to the road. And when it comes to putting a lot higher demand on the shock absorbers, either the valve closes or a valve opens, I can't remember which way it works, but it changes the characteristic of the shock absorber. They claim it's as close as you can get to a computer controlled suspension without it being computer controlled. That remains to be seen. And it's supposed to be able to outperform any standard shock absorber and obviously adapt to the situations that it comes across. So this is the first bit of road that I'm going to drive along. I'll drive it in the other direction, and especially this corner here, it does get bumpy. It's quite bumpy this way as well, but the other way is worse. I'll check the speed that I'm doing and re-record it after I've made all the changes with the same speed, so hopefully we can get data that compares